I always believed that love, real love, was unbreakable. That once you found the person who made you feel safe, who made your heart race and your soul settle at the same time, you were set for life. That was my husband for me. At least, I thought so. We met in university, one of those effortless, movie script kind of romances. He was 2 years older, confident, ambitious, and he made me laugh in a way that made everything feel lighter. We were inseparable, the couple everyone expected to last. And we did. At least, until now. After graduation, we got married and moved into the 3-room apartment he had bought. Life was good, really good. He had a great job, one that allowed us to live comfortably without worrying about bills or expenses. I had started working too, but mostly for personal fulfillment rather than necessity. We traveled, we dreamed, we built a life together. I never thought I had anything to worry about. Until recently. It was subtle at first, small changes that didn't quite make sense. Late nights at work that turned into overnight business trips. A phone that was always face down. A distracted expression when I spoke to him. The way he pulled away from my touch just a fraction of a second too soon. I told myself it was nothing. Stress, work, exhaustion. But the gut feeling, the one I kept shoving down, was growing too loud to ignore. Then, one night, everything changed. I had stayed over at my best friend's place that evening. It was supposed to be a casual girls' night, just some wine and late-night talking, but the conversation inevitably drifted to my marriage. "You're sure everything's okay?" she asked, her eyes narrowing as she watched me swirl my wine. I hesitated. "Yeah. I mean, I think so. He's just been distant lately." She frowned. "Distant how?" I sighed, rubbing my temple. "I don't know. Just, different. Less affectionate. More distracted. And he's always on his phone." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Have you checked it?" I shook my head immediately. "No. I don't want to be that kind of wife." "Well, maybe you should be," she muttered. "Look, I don't want to make you paranoid, but you've been off lately, too. And if your gut is telling you something's wrong, maybe you should listen." I hated that she was right. The next morning, we decided to go back to my place early. Maybe I just wanted to see him, reassure myself that everything was okay. That my paranoia was misplaced. But nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when I unlocked the door. There he was. My husband. With another woman. In our bed. For a few seconds, my brain refused to process it. It felt like a cruel prank, a scene from a movie that I had accidentally walked into. My heart pounded so loudly in my ears that I barely heard my own voice when I asked, "Who is she?" He didn't scramble to cover up. He didn't try to explain. He just looked at me, completely unfazed, and said the words that would shatter my world. "I don't love you anymore. I've been with her for 6 months. 6 months. I felt my best friend's hand grip my arm, probably to stop me from lunging at him, but I was frozen. Stunned. Betrayed in a way that went beyond pain, it was something sharper, colder. And then, something inside me snapped. If he thought he could destroy me and walk away unscathed, he had another thing coming. I was going to make him regret this. The silence that followed his confession stretched so thick, so suffocating, I thought I might choke on it. The woman in my bed, our bed, clutched the sheets to her chest, looking anywhere but at me. Maybe she thought if she stayed quiet, she could disappear. I wished she would. But she wasn't my priority. He was. "You don't love me anymore?" My voice was barely above a whisper, but I could feel the venom laced in every syllable. He sighed, running a hand through his hair like I was the one making his life difficult. "I didn't mean for you to find out this way." "Oh, you didn't mean for me to find out at all," I cut him off, my hands shaking. Whether it was from rage or heartbreak, I wasn't sure. He didn't deny it. For 6 months, I had been cooking for him, loving him, kissing him, while he was doing this behind my back. A small, bitter laugh bubbled up from my chest. So, what now? You were just waiting for the right time to leave? Or were you planning to keep screwing both of us until you got bored? His jaw tightened. I was going to tell you. When? No answer. That was it. That was the moment my pain flipped into something darker. Sharper. If he thought I was going to dissolve into tears and let him walk away clean, he was dead wrong. I turned to the woman. You can have him, I said, my voice cold. But you should know, he likes to say he's working late when he's not. I hope you're okay with that. Her eyes widened. I didn't wait for her response. I turned on my heel and walked out, my friend hurrying after me. She barely got 2 words out before I whipped around, my heart slamming against my ribs. I'm not letting him get away with this. Her lips curled into a slow, knowing smile. Good. What's the plan? I inhaled sharply. I didn't know yet. But I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't over. Step 1, take everything from him. For 2 years, I had been the perfect wife. Supportive, loving, patient. I had done everything to make his life easier. Now, I was going to make it very, very hard. The first thing I did was go home and pack a bag. I had no intention of staying under the same roof as a cheater. But I wasn't going to leave quietly either. I spent the next few hours gathering everything I could use against him. Bank statements. Passwords. Copies of documents. I wasn't sure yet how I was going to use them, but knowledge was power. Next, I called a lawyer. I want to know exactly what I'm entitled to, I said the moment I was in his office. The lawyer leaned back, adjusting his glasses. Well, since the apartment is in his name, he has the legal right to keep it. I expected that. It didn't bother me. I didn't want his apartment, I wanted his peace of mind. However, the lawyer continued, flipping through paperwork, you do have rights to a fair portion of his earnings, especially since you contributed to the household. If you file for divorce under infidelity, you might be able to get more. I smiled. Perfect. I wasn't going to bleed him dry. No, that would be too easy. I was going to make sure every dollar he spent on his new little girlfriend felt like a loss. Step 2, expose him. People love a good scandal. And I was more than happy to provide one. The first thing I did was post a picture of us, the perfect, smiling couple, on social media with the caption, "Funny how you can love someone for years and still never know who they really are." It didn't take long for friends and family to start messaging me. What happened? Are you okay? I ignored most of them. I was waiting for him to reach out. And sure enough, that night, my phone buzzed with a text. Him, what are you doing? Me, oh, just letting people know the truth. You never cared about keeping our vows, so why should I care about keeping your secrets? I could practically feel his frustration through the screen. Him, don't make this ugly. I laughed. Too late. But this was just the beginning. I had a bigger plan brewing, one that would hit him where it really hurt. I just needed a little more time. I could have stopped there. Some might say I'd done enough. I was leaving, I was exposing him, I was making sure he didn't walk away unscathed. But enough wasn't enough. Not for 6 months of lies. Not for the nights I spent waiting up for him, worrying. Not for the way he had looked at me in that bedroom, indifferent, like I was nothing but an inconvenience. So, I kept going. Step 3, hit where it hurts. My husband was a man who thrived on appearances. He loved being admired, respected, seen as the successful young professional who had it all together, career, money, devoted wife. I was about to shatter that illusion. I started with his workplace. I didn't need to say much, just a few carefully placed words to the right people. His boss, for example, received an anonymous email detailing how my husband had been misusing company trips for his little rendezvous. I even attached receipts. I wasn't sure if it would get him fired, but at the very least, it would make his life hell. Then, there were his friends. I made sure they knew exactly why our marriage had ended. Some of them were disgusted. Others tried to defend him. But the best part? I found out that one of them, his closest friend, had no idea my husband had been sneaking around. And guess who was also friends with the woman he was cheating with? Oh, the drama that unfolded. I sat back and watched as his social circle started to crumble. Step 4, a special delivery. Now, this part was pure satisfaction. While I had packed my things and left, I still had access to the apartment. I knew his schedule inside and out. So, one day, when I knew he'd be at work and his little girlfriend wouldn't be around, I let myself in. I didn't destroy anything, no, that would have been too easy. Instead, I left a little gift. I printed out every message, every receipt, every picture I had found during my investigation. I even included a few particularly flirty texts he had sent to me while he was with her. Then, I neatly placed everything into an envelope and left it on their bed. And because I'm a generous person, I left a little note. Just in case she ever wonders if you'll do to her what you did to me. I locked the door behind me and walked out without looking back. Step 5, the grand finale. The fallout came faster than I expected. He called me that night, furious. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he snapped the moment I answered. "Wrong with me?" I laughed, a bitter, sharp sound. "You're the one who lied and cheated, but sure, let's talk about how I'm the problem. You didn't have to do all this." "Oh, but I did," I said sweetly. "See, I figured since you had no problem making a fool out of me, it was only fair I return the favor." He was silent. Then, the words that almost made me pity him. "I made a mistake." I paused, letting those words hang in the air. Letting him feel the weight of them. Then, I said the words I knew would cut deeper than anything else. "I don't care." And I hung up. That was the last time we ever spoke. I never looked back. And him? Well, let's just say, his new relationship didn't last long. But that's not my problem anymore. The first night in my new apartment felt strange. Not because I missed him, no, that part had been burned away by betrayal, but because for the first time in years, I was alone. Completely, utterly alone. No footsteps in the hallway. No low hum of his voice on late-night phone calls. No pretending to be asleep while wondering if he was thinking about me or her. And yet, there was peace in the quiet. No more waiting. No more guessing. No more bending over backward for a man who had already moved on while I was still trying to hold things together. I was free. But freedom came with a price. Because now, I had to figure out who I was without him. Step 1, cleaning house. The first thing I did was purge. Anything that reminded me of him? Gone. Gifts he had given me? Sold. The wedding dress? Burned. Okay, not literally, but I did dump it in a donation bin with a dramatic flair that felt just as good. I changed my number. Blocked him on every platform. Made it impossible for him to worm his way back in with late-night apologies or half-hearted regrets. He had made his choice. And now, I was making mine. Step 2, the revenge that keeps giving. Here's the thing about men like my ex, they don't realize what they've lost until it's too late. And, as fate would have it, karma didn't make him wait long. The first crack in his perfect new life came 3 weeks after I left. A mutual friend sent me a screenshot from his girlfriend's private social media account. A post filled with vague, dramatic captions. Things like, "Some people will never change. Loyalty is everything." And the best one. "If he cheats with you, he'll cheat on you." I nearly choked on my coffee. Could it be? Could my dear, unfaithful husband have already cheated on his mistress? I didn't have to wonder long. Because a few days later, I got another text from my friend. Friend, OMG. She dumped him. Me, that was fast. Friend, yeah, apparently she found out he was still messaging other girls. She went off on him in the middle of a party. Everyone saw. Me, oh, what a shame. Thoughts and prayers. I didn't feel bad. Not even a little. Because here's the truth, men like him don't change. And she? She thought she was special. That she had won. That she was somehow different. She wasn't. She was just another girl in a long line of women he'd eventually betray. Just like I had been. But unlike her, I wasn't sticking around to play the fool. Step 3, becoming someone new. Healing wasn't easy. There were nights I still felt angry. Nights I replayed everything in my head, wondering if I had missed a sign, if I had been blind. But then, there were mornings where I woke up feeling lighter. Like the weight of loving a man who didn't love me back had finally been lifted. I started going out more. Meeting people. Saying yes to things I would have once avoided. I took a solo trip, my first ever. I sat on a beach with a cocktail in hand, watching the waves, feeling the sun on my skin, realizing that this was what happiness felt like. Not chasing someone. Not waiting for someone. Just living. And then, one day, it happened. I woke up. And I didn't think about him at all. Not his betrayal. Not his regrets. Nothing. He was just someone I used to know. And I was finally me again. Life had finally settled into something beautiful. I had built a routine that revolved around me, my happiness, my peace, my growth. The past was exactly that, the past. I wasn't bitter anymore. If anything, I felt grateful. Grateful that I had seen his true colors. Grateful that I hadn't wasted any more years on a man who didn't deserve me. And just when I thought I was done with him for good, he came back. The message. It started with a text. A number I didn't recognize. No name, just a simple "Hey." I stared at the screen, unbothered. I already knew who it was. He had been blocked, of course, but men like him always find a way to slither back in. A new number, a different account. I wasn't going to respond. But then, another message came through. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I nearly rolled my eyes out of my skull. I let him sit in silence for an hour before replying. Me, sorry for what? Him, for everything. For hurting you. For messing up. I should have never done what I did. I lost the best thing that ever happened to me. There it was. The classic, I lost a good woman and now I realize it too late speech. I almost laughed. Me, you're right. You did lose the best thing that ever happened to you. I left him on read after that. But he wasn't done yet. The late night call. A few days later, my phone rang at midnight. I groggily reached for it, only to see the same number. I debated ignoring it. But then I thought, why not? Let's see what he has to say. I answered, my voice calm. Hello? There was silence. Then, a deep sigh. I didn't think you'd pick up. I smirked. Neither did I. Another silence. Then, a quiet, almost defeated, I miss you. I closed my eyes, shaking my head. Men always miss you when you stop missing them. I don't, I said simply. You don't even want to talk. About what? About how you threw away everything we had. About how you made our bed a place for your side piece. He exhaled sharply. I know I messed up. But I swear, I've changed. I wish we could go back. I smiled, a slow, satisfied smile. I don't. Silence. You don't mean that, he muttered. Oh, but I do, I said, my voice almost sweet. You see, I spent so long wondering if I wasn't enough. But the truth is, you weren't enough for me. I let that sink in before delivering the final blow. I'm not angry anymore, I continued. I don't hate you. I don't even wish you the worst. But I would never, ever, take you back. You're just a mistake I don't need to make twice. He inhaled sharply, as if I had physically slapped him. And then, I did what I should have done months ago. I hung up. And this time, I blocked him for good. The aftermath. I won't lie, there was a small, petty part of me that enjoyed it. The satisfaction of knowing he regretted everything. That he saw what he lost. But more than that, I was free. And nothing, not even his apology, could take that away from me. After that final call, I expected to feel something, closure, relief, maybe even lingering anger. But instead, I felt nothing. And nothing was a gift. For the first time in a long time, my life was truly mine. No ghost of him haunting my thoughts. No pain weighing me down. Just me, standing tall, unshaken, whole. And then, when I least expected it, someone new walked into my life. The chance encounter. It happened at a cafe. I had been sitting by the window, lost in a book, when a man at the next table accidentally knocked over my coffee while reaching for his own. Oh no, he groaned, grabbing napkins. I am so sorry. I laughed, shaking my head. Don't worry, it was almost empty. He looked at me then, really looked. And I looked back. Tall. Dark-haired. Warm brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. Still, he said, running a hand through his hair, let me make it up to you. Next cup is on me? I hesitated. I hadn't been on a date since my marriage ended. Hadn't even thought about dating. But there was something easy about him, something safe. So, for the first time in a long time, I said yes. Healing in the little things. His name was Daniel. And Daniel was nothing like my ex. Where my ex had been secretive, Daniel was open. Where my ex had made me feel small, Daniel made me feel seen. It wasn't a whirlwind romance. There were no grand gestures, no dramatic declarations. Just small, quiet moments that felt right. Like how he always texted to make sure I got home safe. Like how he listened, really listened, when I spoke. Like how, on our fourth date, when I flinched at an unexpected touch, he simply pulled his hand away and said, "You set the pace." No rush. And I realized then, this was what love was supposed to feel like. Not walking on eggshells. Not waiting for the other shoe to drop. Just peace. A different kind of love. I didn't fall for him all at once. It wasn't an explosion. It was a slow burn, steady and sure, like warmth spreading through my chest. And one night, as we walked by the river, hands barely brushing, he turned to me and asked, "Can I tell you something?" I smiled. Of course. He hesitated, then exhaled. I like you. A lot. But I know you've been through hell, and I don't want to be another mistake for you. I stopped walking. Looked up at him. And, for the first time, I knew exactly what to say. You're not a mistake, I murmured. You're proof that I learned. His breath hitched. And then, as the city lights reflected in the water, he kissed me, soft, slow, careful. And I let him. Because for the first time in forever, I was ready. I wasn't thinking about him anymore. Not when I woke up. Not when I made my coffee. Not when I laughed over dinner with Daniel, feeling lighter than I had in years. But the universe has a funny way of testing you. Because just when I thought I was done with my past decided to show up, uninvited. The not-so-accidental run-in. It happened at the worst possible time. Daniel and I had just finished a cozy dinner at a little restaurant downtown. We were walking back to his car, my hand tucked into his as we chatted about everything and nothing. And then. You've got to be kidding me. The voice was unmistakable. I turned, my stomach twisting, not in pain, not in longing, but in annoyance. There he was. My ex. Standing just a few feet away, staring at me like I had personally offended him by daring to move on. I sighed. Wow. Hello to you too. His eyes flicked to Daniel, narrowing. Who's this? Daniel, bless his calm and collected soul, just raised an eyebrow. I could ask you the same thing. My ex clenched his jaw. I'm her husband. I snorted. Ex. His gaze snapped back to me, sharp and accusing. So that's it? You're with him now? I tilted my head. That's usually what happens after a divorce. People move on. You should try it. His nostrils flared. It's only been a few months. Oh, I know. You moved on 6 months before I even found out about it, remember? Daniel stayed quiet, watching but never stepping in. He didn't need to. This was my fight. My ex let out a bitter laugh. So this is revenge, huh? Parading your new guy around to rub it in my face? I blinked. Then, I laughed, really laughed. Wow. You really think this is about you? I asked, shaking my head. Not everything revolves around you. This isn't revenge. It's happiness. Something you clearly don't recognize. His jaw tightened. I just don't get how you could move on so fast. I shrugged. Healing is easier when you weren't the one doing the betraying. For the first time, something flickered in his eyes, regret, maybe. Guilt. But I didn't care. I wasn't here to comfort him. I reached for Daniel's hand, lacing our fingers together. I wish you the best, I said, voice soft but final. Then, I turned away. And for the first time since the day I caught him cheating, I didn't look back. I didn't think about him anymore. Not in the mornings, not before bed, not when I kissed Daniel and felt something real, something safe. But apparently, he was still thinking about me. Because 2 weeks after our not-so-pleasant run-in, I got a text. Unknown number, can we talk? I stared at it for a full minute before shaking my head. Men always come back when they realize you were the best they ever had. I ignored it. Then came another. Unknown number, I just need to see you. One time. Please. This time, I smirked. And because I was feeling particularly bold, I sent a single response. Me, talk to your girlfriend. The message was read instantly. No reply. I thought that would be the end of it. But, of course, men like him don't know how to let go. The drunken voicemail. It was a Saturday night. Daniel and I had spent the evening cooking dinner together, making pasta from scratch in my tiny kitchen. Flour covered the counter, my hair was an absolute mess, and I was happier than I had ever been. We were curled up on the couch, a movie playing in the background, when my phone buzzed. A voicemail. I wouldn't have checked it, but something told me to. And the moment I pressed play, my ex's slurred voice filled my ears. Hey. I know I shouldn't be calling, but a deep sigh. I messed up. I really messed up. I rolled my eyes, already unimpressed. I shouldn't have left. I shouldn't have, he hiccuped. She wasn't you. None of them were you. I almost laughed. None of them? Oh, so there had been more? How shocking. I think about you all the time. And I know I don't deserve another chance, but if you ever, another hiccup. If you ever want to try again. I'll wait. The voicemail ended. I exhaled slowly, setting my phone down. Daniel watched me, raising an eyebrow. Everything okay? I smiled. Yeah, I said, deleting the voicemail. It's perfect. Because for the first time in forever, I didn't care anymore. Some people learn from their mistakes. And then there are people like my ex, who only realize what they lost when it's too late to get it back. I had ignored his messages, deleted his voicemail, and gone back to living my life. But the universe? The universe had other plans. Because just when I thought I was done with him, I started hearing stories. And let's just say, karma did not disappoint. The fall of a fool. The first crack in his perfect little world came publicly. A mutual friend messaged me one afternoon with a simple, "Have you seen this?" Attached was a screenshot, his ex-girlfriend's latest social media post. A long, dramatic rant about cheaters, liars, and men who deserve nothing but suffering. I nearly choked on my coffee. I scrolled through the comments, watching the chaos unfold. Turns out, my ex had been up to his old tricks. Except this time, his new girlfriend wasn't as forgiving as I had been. She had found out, exposed him, and dumped him in the most public way possible. Her final words? "I should have known when I found out how his last relationship ended. If he does it with you, he'll do it to you." I actually smiled. Maybe she wasn't so bad after all. The career catastrophe. The next time I heard about him, it wasn't about his love life. It was about his job. Remember that little email I had sent to his boss? The one with receipts of his business trips that were really just romantic getaways? Well, apparently, it had worked. Because not only had he been investigated, but he had also been demoted. Oh, and guess who got the promotion he was aiming for? Not him. I didn't even have to lift a finger for that one. Karma did all the heavy lifting. Rock bottom looks good on him. The last update I got was from a friend of a friend. Apparently, he had moved into a tiny, run-down apartment on the edge of town. His money? Gone. His reputation? Ruined. His once perfect life? A disaster. And me? I was thriving. Because while he was losing everything, I was building something beautiful, with someone who actually deserved me. The closure I didn't need. One day, as I was leaving a cafe, I spotted him. Sitting alone, staring at his phone like he was waiting for a message that would never come. He saw me, too. For a second, he looked like he might say something. But I just smiled, turned away, and kept walking. Because he was nothing more than a chapter one had already finished. And I was writing something new. Closure didn't come from an apology. It didn't come from revenge. It came from moving on. And moving on? It looked really good on me. My life was full now. Full of love, laughter, and a kind of peace I hadn't known in years. My ex? He was nothing more than a distant memory, a mistake I had outgrown. And Daniel? Daniel was everything my ex never was. Which is why, on a quiet evening, under the glow of fairy lights on our balcony, he took my hand, looked me in the eyes, and asked me a question that would change everything. The proposal. "I have something for you," Daniel said, a nervous smile playing on his lips. We had just finished dinner, the city skyline twinkling in the background. I raised an eyebrow, watching as he reached into his pocket. And then he pulled out a small velvet box. My heart stopped. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but he spoke first. "I know what you've been through," he said softly. "I know love hasn't always been kind to you. But I also know that I want to be the man who shows you that love can be good. That it can be safe. That it can be forever." My chest tightened. He took a deep breath, flipping open the box to reveal a simple, stunning ring. "No rush," he said. "No pressure. But if you're ready to take this step with me, I want to spend the rest of my life proving to you that you'll never have to question love again." I had been through hell and back. I had sworn I'd never give my heart away so easily again. But this wasn't easy. This was earned. This was a love I could trust. So, with tears in my eyes and a smile on my lips, I whispered. Yes. Epilogue, the one who truly won. When news of my engagement inevitably made its way to my ex, I imagine it destroyed him. But the funny thing? I didn't care. I didn't check for his reaction. I didn't wonder how he felt. Because I wasn't living my life for him anymore. I was living it for me. And in the end, that was the best revenge of all.